I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Manlius Planning Board meeting for August 12th, 2024. Our meeting is both in person and online, so it's a hybrid meeting. Before we get into the agenda, we just would like to turn over to Doug for a minute.
Sure. I'd like to do a moment of silence for a former dedicated board member here at the Town of Manlius. Les McDermott passed away a couple weeks ago, and Les was a longtime participant with town activities, with the zoning board, with the planning board. He was 23 years on the planning and zoning board. He was an faithful Manlius graduate, dedicated to the community. I don't know how many of you knew Les. I know Rich did, and Lisa did, but he was a mild-mannered man, very professional. He was outspoken when needed, and he's all that you would ever expect from a commercial airline pilot, which he was. He was lifelong engaged with the faithful Manlius community, and there were many times where he would come back in on different topics, and he would catch Lisa and I and still give his input even when he wasn't fully engaged on the boards. So great guy, FM guy through and through, and gave a lot to the community. So good for Les. Good guy, great guy. Didn't know us.
Okay, thanks, everybody. So now I've looked for approval for minutes. We both have July 8th minutes that we need to approve and July 24th minutes that we need to approve. Are there any discussion, questions?
I'll make a motion to approve with your changes that you suggested.
Okay. For both?
Yes.
Okay, motion made by Rich for July 8th and July 24th. I just sent a few minor edits to Lisa earlier today. Second by Arnie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Minutes from July 8th and July 24th are approved. The next item on our agenda is James and Stephanie Nixdorf, a continuation of a public hearing and a possible decision for a 2-lot subdivision at 7884 Salt Springs Road and Duguid. It's tax map number 096.08-32. Is there anyone here present that would like to speak on the public hearing? Okay, step up to the podium and tell us who you are, please.
Thank you. My name is George Holtz, and I live at 5179 Duguid Road, which is adjacent to the subdivision property. And you may recall that I was here on July 8th. And at that time, I had raised some issues concerning whether or not the subdivision property would impinge on my property. I had been told by Control Landscaping that there would be the potential for overlap. And if you'll recall, I had presented 2 slides here showing the overall property dimensions and where the difficulty lay in terms of the original property lines from 1956 and 1962, as opposed to updated property lines that had been instituted by Control Landscaping without my neighbor's knowledge. So you were generous to listen for almost 30 minutes to my synopsis of what I thought the difficulty was. And lo and behold, 2 days later, when I called Control Landscaping, the entire problem was solved. Gary Cottrell found an alternative way to establish the property line. So my hearing before the planning board, in my estimation, is very beneficial. And I have no objection now to how the subdivision property lines
Okay.
are placed adjacent to my property. And also, if you'll recall, David and Ann Mullen, my neighbors, have appeared here too. Cottrell has finished a proper survey of my land, and there's no overlap. Everything is back to normal. And I thank you for the opportunity to come here and present my case, which seems to have come to a reasonable solution.
Okay, great, thank you. Is there anyone else that needs to speak on behalf of this application? Anyone online, Lisa? No, okay,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
okay, motion made by Rich,
Second.
second by David, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. We do need to go through seeker. If Jamie will read us through that.
He's happy to do that.
Okay.
So we're going to answer these questions. No or small impact may occur, or moderate or large impact may occur by reason of this action. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? No. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
No.
Not the actual division, no. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
Will the proposed action have impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies or public or private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
All of those questions being answered, no or small impact, the chair may entertain a motion for a negative secret declaration.
All right, motion made by Don, second by Judy. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries for a negative secret declaration. We also did receive a letter from Mrs. Nixdorf, that she was able to get from the county DOT saying that future access for lot 2 for the proposed subdivision does meet their site distance requirements. So they, we do have that as well. So with all of that, I would entertain a motion, unless there's any other discussion, for the 2-lot subdivision.
I'll make a motion
Okay,
to approve the 2-lot subdivision.
okay, motion made by Aaron,
I second.
second by David, all in
May I
favor?
just add the condition that the applicant needs to provide a copy of the filed map to the town?
Okay, all right, so we'll add that condition to the motion.
So this says, condition that the applicant provides what?
The final map to the town, once it's filed.
The survey we received last time is not.
Well, once it gets filed, it is. Once it gets filed and stamped, then it come back.
Part of the current, and it's on the declarative remarks this evening, that this survey, which at the last meeting was a contention, we should not be approving a project with a survey that didn't satisfy, the collective wisdom of the owners concerned. Does this survey satisfy that, or do we need a different, would we expect a different survey?
It's my understanding that this is the correct.
Fine, okay, I'll agree on that.
Is it possible to make a comment?
Yes, you
Oh.
not.
I'm interested to know what, if I'm allowed to ask this question, what the plan is in terms of access to lot number 2, which is a major fraction of the subdivision. Where will the access be coming from? Will it be Salt Springs Road?
That's going to be determined, yes, with the DOT, and they'll decide exactly where.
And has there been any indication on the part of the Nixdorfs concerning their future plans to convert it from agricultural to residential?
We have not heard that.
We can't ask that, or?
It's not part of what we do, but you can call and ask them. Right now,
Yeah.
it's just the subdivision, so.
So why is there a necessity for a driveway access to agricultural land?
There's a requirement for access to any lot that's created.
Okay.
It's one of the requirements.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we had a motion made by Aaron.
Second, if it hasn't been seconded.
Okay, yeah, sure. Second, okay, second by Don. All in favor? With the condition that Jamie stated with the final map. Okay? Motion carries. All right, motion carries for the 2-lot subdivision approval with the condition that the final map be filed with the town. Okay, the next item on our agenda is for Twin Ponds Housing LLC at 5440 North Burdick, Fayetteville. This is for a planned unit development. It's tax map number 086.02-06.1, and this is on for a public hearing this evening. Before we open the public hearing, is there someone on behalf of the applicant? Oh. If you'd like to give a brief presentation first.
I can. Good evening, Brian Bouchard with CHA. So we're the project engineer working on behalf of the applicant and developer. Charlie Brewer, I think, is in the Zoom call. And he can bring up a copy of the overall site plan, and I can just give you a general description of the project, starting with the fact that we've been working on this for the better part of a year. Just to summarize the process a little bit, this started with the town board and the applicant applying for a planned unit development. So a very site-specific development that the town planning board and town staff could comment on along the way in terms of the vision of the project. So started that last year, and later in the year, the district plan was approved, which is the general guidelines to which the development needs to be designed toward. And then earlier this year, we did submit a formal site plan application that was in line with that district plan. So the site plan application is a very detailed set of drawings that guides the board through what exactly the development is in terms of building placement, landscape, lighting, site access, and things of that nature. So describe the site to you a little bit. So this is 54 acres. It's right across from the Northeast Medical on North Burdick Street. So North Burdick Street is to the left-hand side of the page. And the driveway access in the upper left-hand corner is directly opposite of the traffic signal that exists for Northeast Medical. The remainder of the site is what is known as South Pond, which is an old quarry pond. So a lot of existing pond area there. And you can see the development kind of up to the top of the page, which would be residential apartments and a mixed use development that is just between what we call South Pond and North Pond. North Pond is off the property. It's not under our property control. And then just to orient yourself, Limestone Creek is also off the property, but it kind of borders our easterly edge along the Limestone Creek area there. So it's about 54 acres, and it would be accessed off of North Burdick Street. We would improve that traffic signal, which is currently a 3-way signal, to have a 4th signal head on it. So there would be a DOT permit required for the signalized intersection that we would create there, along with striping for turn lanes to facilitate left turns in and out of the site, both off of North Burdick Street.
I asked you a few days ago, when would that be done?
Yes, when would it be completed? So
when would the traffic light be a 4-way as opposed to 3-way?
yes, so the process would be site plan approval comes first. then we would apply for all of our permitting, right? Building permits, DOT permits. The design drawings for the signal would be submitted to the DOT. There would probably be a few months for them to review that. And then obviously put it out, the applicant would put it out to bid for construction. And it would be constructed prior to any occupancy of the buildings.
My concern was not the occupancy of the buildings, it was during construction. And having construction traffic going off of North Burdick Street without a controlled traffic light was a concern to me. So what I hear is it won't be done prior to construction. You're planning on doing it after you get your occupancy permit.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something the DOT would comment on, and maybe we'll have to provide them with traffic counts for construction. And in any project, there is the ability to get a temporary driveway permit just for construction. So they may say that because of site distance or whatever, that it needs to be part of the first phase of construction and open prior to the bulk of the building being built and construction traffic, but we can get them that information. I'm sure they'll
Okay,
comment on it as part
I'm
of
just
the.
saying that's a concern.
That's fine, yep, understood, I'll make note of it. So just to go back through sort of generalities of the project for the benefit of the public. So site access off North Burdick Street. As you enter into the site, the first area that you see is two mixed-use buildings. It's a smaller, I don't know if Charlie could scroll to the mixed-use area, I think it's 2 pages ahead. A little zoomed in view here. So again, this traffic signal intersection, you come into the site and there's a mixed use component. So this has a mixed use building. It has commercial space on the ground floor. There are no tenants, but those tenants would be things like office, retail, or restaurants. There's a list of permissible uses for that commercial tenant space within our district plan that's allowed. And then the upper floors would be residential apartments. Each one of them has their own parking area set off to the side. And this was done to create a streetscape along the new entrance drive where the buildings front on the street with sidewalks. And then just behind the building, capturing views for patios and other things facing the pond. As you continue to drive back, which I think if you went up a page, you would come to the residential area of the project. So just, yeah, there you go. Just to the north of the main entrance driveway would be the 3 residential buildings. So these are 5-story buildings. The first floor is a parking garage, and then the residential apartment units on the upper 4 floors. The balance of the parking is contained sort of between the buildings with surface parking and enclosed detached parking garages. And we've met all the parking counts that were established as part of the district plan as well. You can see how the buildings are positioned to capture views primarily to the ponds, also to the north pond, but also across the driveway and over the clubhouse to South Pond. So if you go down one more page, right across from those apartment buildings would be the amenity area. So this is a residential clubhouse. This has a variety of different amenities in it, from fitness to small meeting spaces for the residents. It has the leasing office, a club room, and also has a grand patio that would be right off the back side. So a patio and a porch that faces the pond. From this destination, there's a variety of walking trails that go along the edge of the pond to connect from our sidewalks to the water and some of the other amenities that we've placed throughout the site in terms of pavilions, benches, seating, and pocket parks. Something that we've developed hand in hand with the planning board in terms of those little amenity areas that residents could use as they walk along the different trails and different areas that we have out there along the pond. Clubhouse, I mean, we've also done a whole bunch of different reports. So again, we did the traffic study for the DOT that's been approved. We have a stormwater management plan that deals with the drainage on site. We have most recently addressed the planning board's comments where we got into a lot of the finer details with landscape areas and specific to restoration and reforestation within areas that are potentially not green now because of its quarry use, but that need to be converted to green space along buffer areas with the edge of the forested areas, and also slope stabilization areas with the different seed mixes and other things that will complete the green space and landscape plans. So we have, addressed all of the planning board's comments to date. And would turn it back to the chair for any other public comments or, questioning
Yeah, I just
comments.
do you want to show a little bit of the architectural rendering?
Yes, we can. So if,
Can I ask a couple, before you get into the rendering, two questions I've got. There was that 5-foot sidewalk that on the plans originally said it was a town easement.
Mhm.
That's coming off your final plans.
so,
The town has no desire to maintain the sidewalk along the roadway. That's your responsibility.
okay, two things there. Yes, we put an easement in place to allow for the future construction of sidewalks along North Burdick Street. Obviously within our property.
No, I'm talking about the one on the emergency exit driveway or whatever. it's
Okay,
called.
so there was a comment previously that we don't control the land, but there is a creek walk trail that's on the opposite side of Limestone Creek. And if there was ever a desire for the town or the county or somebody to build a walkway or a bridge over Limestone Creek, that public would have to be accessed through our private property. And the applicant was willing to provide a statement on the plans that public pedestrian movement could be possible through our property, but
Got
if
it.
it's-
No, I'm talking about along the emergency driveway. There's, on your plans, it said there's a 5-foot town easement for a sidewalk,
yes,
all the way down to Burdick.
correct.
And
I
I,
think that's what Brian was talking about.
That is what I'm talking about. We don't have a purpose to build that walkway except for if in the future the town ever wanted to allow public access through the creek walk to the shopping centers and whatever, it would have to go through our property. And the only way that we can allow that is to have the town receive an easement that says that there's public pedestrian traffic can traverse through the property.
Right, so we're not gonna have it dedicated to the town, it's just going to be there and available for dedication.
Yeah, so we will change that to be not a meets and bounds of a 5-foot
Yeah.
easement. It will be a note on the approved site plan that says that the applicant is willing to provide a town pedestrian, sidewalk area for pedestrians.
okay.
Mhm.
And I haven't seen the easement for that roadway across the
Yeah.
property. I know you have. That's why I'm looking at you, because I'm gonna ask you the question. Is it clear who maintains that, plows it, repairs it, whatever in the easement?
I don't remember, but I'll look at that for you, Rich.
Okay, because I think it's important that they're the one that Charlie
Yeah.
Brewer, whatever his company is,
Yes. I
has the
remember.
responsibility to take care of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
certainly the owner needs to maintain it, all season. It's an emergency access driveway. So the applicant for this project will be responsible for the maintenance of the emergency access road.
Okay,
At some point in the future, when that becomes or ever gets developed into a permanent driveway intersection with a commercial property, at that point in time, there would be a shared responsibility between the owner's tenants that are on the commercial piece and our usage of it, and that's usually split as like a percentage, but until a time when it's developed, it's ours. It's-
yes,
Yeah,
okay, I just want to make sure it's clear in the easement that that's what it says.
sure.
Okay,
I'll confirm it, and it's been a while since I looked at it, but yes, it is.
The question was architecture, so, we have architectural drawings for mixed-use buildings and the apartment buildings that we've submitted throughout the planning board process. We provided numerous different iterations, of this building, both the architectural penetration, kind of accents, the hips in the roof, the cupolas, everything, has been a discussion with the planning board as we went along. We even provided different color palettes to get to a point where the final design was then implemented and rendered that you see on the screen here. So we have the different perspective views as you drive in to the site. We talked about how the site is significantly lower in elevation than North Burdick is, many feet lower than the 20 feet lower. So the buildings will kind of sit down in its adjacent location next to the pond. So these are views looking across the parking lots that I showed you, kind of to the interior space between the two apartments, and then matching architecture for the clubhouse that's front and center to that pond feature that we have at South Pond.
I'd just like to note that you were very cooperative in looking at the overall comprehensive plan that we have for the town. And you have adjusted the finishes, the kind of design that want to meet with the comprehensive plan. We hope that a lot of the applicants that come to us will read that comprehensive plan and make sure that we have a community who will be proud of in the future. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. Just another view of the clubhouse, as if you were sitting on the water, looking back at the patio space just behind the clubhouse with the apartment buildings across the driveway.
Okay, and then, yeah, just real quick look at the mixed use, and then we can go on with the public hearing.
The mixed use buildings, Charlie, if you have them,
Sorry, Charlie.
I know we could have teed them all up for you.
Good job. There's no lag or anything.
He's pulling them up, maybe? Can you, the mixed use, Charlie?
Sorry, I have someone knocking at my front door. What are you looking for?
Just, if you had the mixed use building elevations that we did. There they are. So similar architecture, smaller buildings. They're split in two with kind of this covered breezeway to connect both of them on the storefront level. But very much a village mixed use aesthetic building where there's variations in the roof line. And again, to facilitate that mixed use component of the commercial mixing with the smaller residential apartments on the upper floors.
Thank you, and yeah, and that's to David's point, that was especially what was complimentary from the comprehensive plan for the, the design, what the community feedback we had gotten with most desirable versus least desirable.
Yeah, and not only architecture, but working with the board to make sure that the building's disposition in terms of how it kind of was front and center to the street and that the parking areas were to the side, all go along with the idea of a village mixed use center kind of aesthetic there.
Right, exactly, thank you. Okay. I think that's it. Are there any, before we do the public hearing, are there any more comments or questions, discussion from the board? No, okay,
I'll make the motion to open the public hearing.
okay, first we need a motion to waive the reading from the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading.
Okay, motion made by Judy, second by David, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries to waive the reading, and now I'll take your motion, Rich, to open the public hearing. Okay, motion made by Rich, second by David, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, and public hearing is open. Is there anyone here to speak? If you would step up to the podium and let us know who you are, please.
I am Mark Olson. I'm county legislator for the 10th district, also a village resident and a former mayor of Fayetteville. I'm here to speak on behalf of, really from three angles. First, I want to thank all of you for considering this project. I think this is a very important project in our community and has broad aspects of positive things and negative things, but you're taking your time and you're going through it, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. Being a mayor, I understand the work of the planning board and how hard it is, so I want to say thank you. From the county's standpoint, we did a housing needs assessment, and I will leave this for Valerie. There's a lot of great information in here, and in the east section, it talks about the need, and the east is the villages of Fayetteville, Manlius, Manoa, the town of Manlius, and the town of DeWitt. And the need of rental units and the demographics of our community. I kind of highlighted, some green tabs that are very important in this thing that talk about the need for rental properties and how our community is behind the curve when it comes even before Micron, and they even talk about after Micron. So the need, just to give you an example, from 2020 to 2040, with Micron, there's going to be a need to have 16,000 more units put online in Onondaga County, including the city of Syracuse. That's a big number, and this project, 300, is something that will help that move forward. So this is a very good report. I have extra copies if you need, but I will leave one for you. So this just has a lot of great information, and I know there's others that may talk about that. The second thing I want to talk about, as I was in mayor, there was many times where we considered the project at the O'Brien and Gear site up in the village of Fayetteville. We were gonna do 350 apartments. And the big thing that we talked about when we looked at that was people that lived in our village that were over 65, that wanted to relocate into a smaller place, an apartment. They couldn't afford senior housing like the Nottingham or the cruise ship on land or something like that, but they wanted to downsize because they wanted to stay in their community. I won't use the person's last name, but there's people in this room that know him, but Mary and Pat were very big people in the village. They wanted, their grandkids were here, their grandkids lived in the community, their kids lived in the community, they did want to leave. But they were in a 3,000 square foot house in the village of Fayetteville, and they kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. This person has since passed, his wife has moved into senior housing now, but they couldn't afford to live there at the time, so they had to sell their house. That's a good thing sometimes when you think about people having to sell their house and stay in a community. That opens up housing stock for other people, young families to move into the community, but then they can move into an apartment and stay in the community that they love. And I'll use another personal story, my mother. My mother was in a 2,000 square foot house in the village, couldn't afford to stay in the house, and we wanted to find an apartment, we couldn't find an apartment, so she ended up finding suitable housing at the Nottingham. But that wasn't choice one. Choice one was to stay in a community that she lived in for over 83 years. People don't have that choice right now, and this will give them the choice to do that. And then the last thing is just, I think, looking at this project, there's not a lot of housing. When you look at things around it, there's not a lot of housing around it. That's a very commercial area, and this fits well. I think that the developers have a great track record. Cuber Brewer, also who they use to design it. When you talk about 20, 30 feet down, that's a good thing. That helps fit into the site. Our problem with O'Brien and Gear is it didn't fit on the site, and it didn't work. That's why we said no. This fits on the site. This is a good area for that, and it's a good need for the community. And I think this is a project that I would like to see you get behind. And I do want to say thank you to all your work that you've done and all your consideration for this project. I think this is a win-win for our community. We need more people to live here and grow their families and have the quality of life that we all love and enjoy. And that will also bring people to fill some of the jobs. My last point is, you know, I'm in the hospitality industry, and they need people to work, but they can't afford to live in Fayetteville, or they can't find a place to live in this Fayetteville town of Manlius area. This will give them an opportunity maybe to move into our community and be part of our community, and then join the fire department, join the recreation committees, play in the Little League, join Pop Warner, be part of this great community. So I just wanted to say thank you. I will leave this for you. Again, there's a lot of great information, and if you need more copies, I'll be more than glad to get them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay.
Considering the scale of this project, and
Sorry, could you say your name?
again,
Kind of ready to.
oh, okay, George Holtz, 5179 Union Road, Fayetteville. Considering the scale of this project, I wonder, and I assume you've considered this previously, is the town infrastructure and services sufficiently large enough to meet the demands of a building like this? For example, the fire department. How would a major fire in a building like this or a complex like this be something that the Manlius Fire Department could possibly accommodate? That's my first question. Also, what considerations are there concerning how this would impact attendance in the FM school system? Is there a study normally that would be necessary to judge whether the school system can accommodate projects like this or future ones? So I'm just interested to hear if you would respond to that, and that's all I have to say.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, go ahead, and agree.
Hi, I'm Kathy Howe, resident of Fayetteville. And my concern is that you're addressing the idea of a sidewalk. And I just feel sidewalks are so important. I moved here without a sidewalk on Brooklyn Drive. I was with other residents, we had to really, took a long time to get it. We had to fight for finally having it. People use it all the time. It is wonderful, it is safe. I would like to see a sidewalk going from the Twin Ponds down Burdick. I think that now that you're talking about, Mr. Olson said about us seniors living there someday, what better way that we can live there than a sidewalk that we could walk to Target, to Tops, and all those places. Without a sidewalk, that is a dangerous road to walk on. And I think now is the time when we have Twin Ponds to ask them to help out in any way they can with getting the grading to start the sidewalk and then the town to continue after it. The other thing is a bike lane. I might not be at this point in time, I usually walk down this way and cross over, but I do drive my car down Burke Street, North Burke Street, and there's nothing more a little bit scary than with some of the bicycle riders. We don't have enough room on the side of the road for that. And many times, no, they're not riding on the road, but there's just not a lot of space. And so I would like to also think about bike lanes. We're talking about having us to use less energy. Well, we can do it by walking, but we need to have safe sidewalks, safe bicycle lanes, and I think now is the time to do it when you're just starting the project, than waiting till later on and trying to get a sidewalk in there. And I would like it as not only a user possibly someday, but also as just a car driver going down that walkway. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Samora. I live right up the street in the village of Fayetteville. And I just wanna, say that I greatly support this project. I support additional housing in our area, for all the reasons that, Mark Olson already gave you and spoke more eloquently about it than I could. So, I just wanna say that I appreciate the obvious thoughtfulness that the planning board has put in, as well as the applicant, and their team. Living in the village of Fayetteville has been great for us, and I know there's so many people who would like to have the opportunity to stay, as Mark said. And I think having that housing diversity is really important to have our community continue to grow. We have a lot of wonderful assets here that I'm very excited to share with other people. And I think that not only the community, but the businesses that are in our community will only benefit from having folks be able to live in proximity here. So again, support it and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Heather Waters, and I'm a former town councilor and former co-chair of the comprehensive plan process. So I also was just delighted to see how this project has evolved. And thank you so very much for all you've done to work on it. And kudos to the town board too. I have been really impressed also with the work that the developers have done. And I feel, especially for this site, which we all know is a storied site, that you really want to have a very talented and dedicated partners for such a site, and those who understand our geography really well. And so I really echo the sentiments that Legislator Olson provided about Huber Brewer. 7 generations strong now, and if you think about Charlie's kiddo and everybody else. I think that I'm excited about the number of apartments. I mean, I think we look at the projects that come through and we think, okay, there are a few more, but I think that this is a significant community of people coming online, and just like what Kelly said, I think that it's a whole new, a group of people, and in another era for us, to have some workforce housing there that is about a formula of folks who are absolutely not the very 1%, but are certainly also not typically what you think of as a person who is receiving a housing voucher for support for housing as well. Someone who is needing housing to meet their budget needs. And that is what we're all striving for, this concept of understanding and being supportive of expanding the middle class in everywhere we can, and being supportive in our community of a more socioeconomically diverse community. Because of what Legislator Olson said, that you want people who work here to be able to live here. And so if you are working in a retail job, or if you're working as in a healthcare worker job of some sort, in an hourly wage, and you're commuting right now and spending a lot of money on commuting, or you're working shifts, it would be a lot better to be able to be here and be able to pick up your kids from school and all the rest and live here. So I think that that's exciting. And I'm also thinking about my mom, and I'm thinking about myself. I'm 47, so, thinking about, the next, 20 years and what everything looks like in terms of our own large house and my mother and multi-generational living and all the rest. Maybe we don't need to live in the same house. Maybe she could live in an apartment down the road. Say so lovingly. Hopefully I did not make news. I'm not gonna replay that soon. Thank you so very much again. And I do support this project and wanted to make sure I put a good word in for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
So good evening, I'm Eleanor Hannah. I live on Edgemere Lane here in Fayetteville. And I too wanted to echo some of the previous speakers who spoke about this project, and specifically Mr. Olson. I think about my in-laws who sold us their house 15 years ago and didn't have a place in this community where they could retire. And so they left to North Carolina. Fast forward, and now they're in their early 80s. My husband and only child is having to travel to North Carolina to help them go to doctor's appointments when there's an accident, right? They would love to be closer. There's no place for them to move closer. Yet this project would be an opportunity. It would give them the same sense of community that they were searching for when they had to leave central New York. It would give them access literally across the street to medical professionals. They would be able to create the kind of bond with our son that they want and not have to have that distance between them. Additionally, my parents, who are also early 80s and have a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house in a desirable neighborhood, they could turn that house over to a new family and have a place to go. And that's why they haven't done that yet, because there isn't a place to go. And so my 80-year-old dad is climbing ladders and cleaning gutters and mowing lawns and calling my husband to come snow blow when there's a bad snow. But these are the kind of projects that we need in this community so that the people who have been here for a long time, who want to stay and want to contribute, not just their time and their dedication, but their tax dollars, have a place where they can be at home. And so I appreciate the thought that has gone in on behalf of the project, but also you, because we need this kind of housing in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jared Shepherd. I live at 212 Diane Circle in Chittenango. I'm actually here on behalf of Center State CEO and our Housing Task Force. So I'm the Director of Planning and Research at Center State. And for the last 10 months or so, we've worked with a lot of people in our community on how we can best look forward to the growth that we're expecting and the role that developing housing will play in the shared prosperity of this region. I'm coming to this meeting to thank this planning board and to also thank this community for the terrific consideration that you've given to supporting the growth that we need in this community. As we not only have seen some growth recently, but expect more growth coming, and need to undertake these types of developments so that we continue to have the great places to live and work and play that you've heard others speak about today. So in our work in our housing task force, we identified the need regionally to develop efficiently and use our resources efficiently. So infill development is one of the ways that we can do that, and also maintain a diversity of housing options. And that's exactly what I think we've been hearing about from other people supporting this project, which is developing places where we know that now that there's economic growth coming to our community and taking place right now, our adult children, we expect to come back to this community and live with us. Also creating places that you heard people talk about for seniors to downsize that aren't necessarily full retirement centers. And also places for our teachers and frontline workers as we welcome more people in our community. So through our work, we found that we need more of this type of development. We certainly think that the work in the comprehensive plan, which we reviewed, lays out in its vision very clearly that this is a great community that's welcoming to more people joining it. And additionally, it's a great support to the local businesses. These households, of course, will be spending money. They will be giving their business to the retail and service industries that are in the community. Supporting an even stronger, thriving business infrastructure. So on behalf of Center State and the Housing Task Force, we're here to support this project. Again, thank you for considering it. It's with great excitement that we see what's going on in Manlius. It's part of the positive direction of this region. And we're excited and we welcome the role that this project is going to play in support of the growth and in the prosperity of the region. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in the room? Go ahead.
Good evening. Tom Bassett, retired real estate lawyer, town resident since 1979. So I appreciate the presentation that the representative CHA made, very detailed, very comprehensive, very informative. What I mainly wanted to do was to just quickly track the history of this matter and suggest that the brewers who formed this limited liability company, Twin Ponds HB LLC, had the foresight to imagine this project, and then they set in motion, taking advantage of the change in the town zoning ordinance to permit planned unit developments. They set in motion this project. So, as you know, before the town board last fall, there was a public hearing on September 27th, at which I spoke in favor of the flood application. That was then continued on October 4th and October 18th, and finally on November 1st, there was unanimous town board approval of the planned unit development. In the interim, it appears that the architectural firm was working on plans. They had been basically prepared the plans for the planned unit development, but they made a series of they made an application to the planning board, and you had meetings on January 8th of this year, April 8th, May 13th, June 24th, and now a public hearing on August 12th. So you undoubtedly had questions about the voluminous documents that were submitted, as evidenced by the pile in front of Valerie. And it sounds like those have been answered satisfactorily. So the site plans seem to be consistent with the original Twin Ponds district plan. So that's a good thing. So it looks like every imaginable question has probably been answered by the submissions that have been made. The studies are incredible. I've never seen a 180-page traffic assessment, but it's difficult to wade through. So basically, what I'm saying is there's sustained progress by the developer from the initiation of the PUD application to the acquisition of the property in January of this year, for $4 million, they would not put up that, they would have put up that money in that amount unless they were certain, fairly certain that this would, go through. They'd already gotten the PUD approval. There's been minimal public opposition to the project. So unlike the other PUD application that is further on the north side of the canal, where there were significant neighborhood opposition, this seems to have little or no opposition because you don't have surrounding residential property owners who are angry about this about the proposal. So finally, this is a high quality mixed use project fulfilling multiple town needs and objectives in a creative, intelligent, and competent manner by developers with a proven positive track record. Thus, I support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak? Okay, and Lisa, is there anyone online? Okay. So no one else in the room and no one else online?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Second.
Okay, motion made by Rich, second by Arnie, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, the public hearing is closed. Thanks, everybody, for your feedback. There were a few questions. Brian, do you mind addressing those? I've got just like that you guys have, looked at the infrastructure and fire services. And
Yes,
and then
I tried to take notes where I could. I know there was a lot of generalized support about the idea. Tom obviously took better notes than I did about the process and procedure.
Yeah, attendance.
Fire department, so very early on, we talked about, with the fire chiefs, we've talked about their firefighting equipment and the ability to access the site and the need for an emergency access point, so that there's 2 ways in and out. So all of that came directly from, sit-down meetings with the fire chief and fire responders to make sure that, fire response is adequate. Obviously, the building will be code compliant and sprinkler systems and fire hydrant placement, fire department connections, building height and aerial access. There's certain widths of driveways and all of the things that are needed to safely access the buildings. And then obviously building code itself that's been bolstered over the years as well. So fire department definitely. FM school, we don't work hand in hand with the school. I know that the school is working with the county and other people to make sure that population growth is tracked at the same rate that they can expect attendance and things like that. There's a different demographic that could be here, from obviously school age kids all the way through the people that are moving out of single family homes. So
yeah, and we also have the superintendents are represented on a fairly new committee that we've started in the town.
To talk about population growth at large and things like that.
Yeah.
Kathy, I believe, talk about sidewalks and their importance. So just to kind of go, and almost you said it in your own words, is that the developer obviously can provide a certain portion of sidewalks. We started by providing an easement along a road frontage of North Burdick, to more recently where we will actually construct that portion of sidewalk that's on our property, so that the town or a developer, north or south, could be in front of the planning board with a similar request, and that the planning board can then have those sidewalks connected. We also are installing, as part of our striping plan and pedestrian signal, to cross to the medical office that's across the street. I know that there aren't sidewalks either on the east or west side of North Burdick to get you to the commercial center, but during the PUD district formation process, the supervisor was very adamant that this project in and of itself could be a trigger for not only providing a portion of the sidewalk at the expense of the developer, but his incredible interest to physically connect the Erie Canal Trail down North Burdick to the commercial areas as well, to which we are basically centered on. So again, I think it's a trigger that would probably widen the bigger swath of improvements that could be made and applied for by grants and other funding through the town to make more connections available up and down North Burdick as development happens. And then, part of that is the multimodal piece that she talked about as well, with implementing not only a sidewalk, but because of the Erie Canal being multimodal and the ability for people to peel away off their journey from Albany to Buffalo, apparently, and, visit one of the shopping centers or restaurants that's just off of the trail would be important as well for bikes. Sidewalks. I think those were the ones, unless I missed.
That's what I heard.
And Can you just address sewer and water?
Yes, so, yep, so part of, county, Onondaga, County Water Environment Protection controls the sewer system. And we applied, at the same time, we applied for our site plan application here back in January for a capacity analysis through WEP. We are in a trunk line, so there's no neighborhoods to which we would discharge and be taking up capacity. We discharge directly to the limestone interceptor, and they did provide a capacity assurance letter that said that their system has the ability to handle the sewer flows and water flows from the project. There is also the offset program to which there's developer sponsored work to make other improvements within the system. So we've worked with utility companies, sewer and water, traffic studies and everything that Tom had mentioned there as well.
Yeah, and just to Kathy, so you know that the planning board, as of recently, has been very active with getting sidewalks put in with projects that come to us. So we have another one further down Burdick, further south down Burdick, that we're asking them to put a sidewalk in as well. So we've got to start from somewhere, but we're trying and having the developers and applicants help us out as much as possible by putting sidewalks in.
So I think the town center has all those seniors.
Yeah.
If they could only walk safely down to Kohl's and Target, just for, just for a walk, and it's not, I see people walking. Really safe, especially if in the wintertime, by 4:30, it's dark out.
Right.
Having legislator.
And it's a big initiative for the town as well.
He's a great person for us to continue to encourage because he can help us.
Yeah, and I know it's a big initiative from the county because of where this all is with relation to the canal and to Limestone Creek and just kind of, making a nice connective area, so, yeah.
So,
Yes,
I'd
sorry.
like to address Mr. Holt's
Yes.
question. You brought up something in my wheelhouse. It's the idea of coordinating with schools. We don't directly coordinate with the schools. Nobody from the school board comes in to the planning board meetings to say what's going on. But the schools are very, very concerned about a steady flow of kindergartners. Because that kindergarten class stays with them for 13 years throughout the system. If you have a shortfall, because people can't move here or they can't afford it, you have a shortage in that class, that's going to be a short class for the next 13 years. That affects their school reimbursement from the state, it affects their overall budget, and it affects the way the people who want to live in the town want this town, because the biggest attraction to the town is still the FM and ESM school districts. We're one of the very few towns that's got two phenomenally good school districts in the same town. My biggest concern that nobody's brought up is that the market rates for those apartments are going to be over $2,500 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. That's $30,000 a year. If you use the 30% of your budget for housing, and 30,000 of it's already taken up by rent, doesn't cover all the other stuff that goes with it, so you homeowners know. You're gonna have to have an income well north of $100,000 to live there. That's another problem. Now, we don't directly address that at the planning board, but we're aware of it. We're terribly aware of it, and it's one of the biggest complaints I have, is that if you want a diverse community, diverse in terms of economics, is what Heather's talking about, you need to be able to have places where people can afford to live who don't make $100,000 and more. So that's something I just throw out for all of you to think about. I do all the time because I volunteer for the police department in what used to be the Manlius Elementary School. Where all my girls went when they were in elementary school. And we've taken care of the school problems, but we've had old schools, we built new ones. We've repurposed old ones, we've done a good job of it. But that's something that we always have to be very much aware of, is the number of people coming in with the right age kids who want to live here and can afford it. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions from the board? And I know you've got some other things that you're working on and
Yes.
on your end.
Yep. There's a,
Do you have to go through, are you able to go through secret? Next.
Did we have a few outstanding, did they all get answered now? Let's wait.
Let's wait.
Yep. Let's wait to the next meeting.
Okay.
No, it's no.
Yeah. Okay.
For plans though, which is what you're mentioning,
Yeah.
yes, there was some of the seed mix comments, there was some dimensioning, like remove some of the dimensions from the sign, and Charlie and I intend to drop those off, Wednesday for your next meeting.
Okay, and yeah, and then the traffic light comments that Rich had and some of the other things.
Yep.
Okay. All right,
Very good.
okay,
Thank you very much.
thank
Thank you very much.
you. Thanks, everybody, as well, for your comments. Or didn't worry about it. Sorry. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the A&E and SNY Center, Med Spa. On the agenda for the site plan. This is tax map number 086.01-03.9. And we have someone here on behalf of the applicant.
Yes, hi, Joe Duran, TK Engineering, here with Mike Papa. Lisa, can you let us in?
Yes, I
Thanks. We were here on July 22nd to present our proposed site plan and related drawings, architectural drawings. And there were a number of comments and questions from Doug's side, code enforcement, fire department, and your board. And in general, it was to take all the information and the questions and the piecemeal information that we had provided from code enforcement, fire department, to get them all into one package. So we resubmitted, we addressed the comments, I'll go through the details, but we submitted new architectural engineering drawings to reflect your comments, dated July 31st, and they're stamped, everybody should have them. Rich, check me on that date, I just spit that out. Pretty sure. And again, I won't be too long, but we took your comments to heart. We kind of did a compilation of the comments and sent them out to Doug, and we kind of brainstormed everything. In general, there's no reference to signage at all on the plans. That'll be a separate submittal when the time comes. The landscaping plans were updated to reflect everything, from our perspective. Our drawings include the fire department comments, and we met with the fire department, and we received a comment letter from them. We met with code enforcement, and we addressed their letter that was issued, code enforcement letter. It's included in the package. And then the issue came up about access, from Med Center Drive, as far as what the fire department was looking for, the retaining walls, and they'd asked for steps. So we provided steps, 180 feet, we connect them to the sidewalk, the public sidewalk. We connect them to the parking lot up above in the courtyard area at the north side of the building. We added, code enforcement was comfortable with the no railing. We added railing, we added site lighting, we updated the photometrics to reflect 6 modern lights up the steps. We tied those in to the courtyard area. And we also, we had some conversations with Doug about stormwater management, and I think we've addressed everything. One of his biggest concerns was to reach out to utility companies. We reached out to Aqua and WEP like we normally do. We reached out to National Grid and AT&T, and Aqua responded immediately that there was no capacity issues. WEP said they've got, staffing constraints and they'll get back to us. We're confident that we'll be okay to sewer the site. And nothing back from National Grid. Usually that's a little early because they need line diagrams and loads and everything, but we did get the project on record with them. So, I think that we have addressed everything from our perspective, but willing to take any questions or comments that you have regarding the latest submission. Yes, sir.
Question on drawing 2B2. It shows the emergency spillway, I think shows the emergency spillway from stormwater management area number 2 appears to flow over the sidewalk. Is that what happens?
Shane, can you just give me a little zoom on that? I can't read that.
You're referring to this one here?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So that's just a stabilized flood route. The 100-year storm would still have freeboard in that stormwater management area. That's in it's unexpected situation.
Oh, I understand. It's unexpected.
It is across the sidewalk. Yes, it would be.
All right, I did not make, I just wanted to.
The normal flow though is through that stormwater management.
Oh, I understand the whole piping system it takes before that happens.
Yeah.
In
And I
other
mean-
circumstances, it's.
That's the flood path, yes, yep. And into the street right away.
So, Joe,
Yes.
so when we met in our, meeting this time around, and we had our Jamie here with legal, we decided, don't kill me.
No, what time?
Don't kill me. We've decided that based on consultation with legal, et cetera, that we actually would like to have the access steps. We're not taking that recommendation to have the access steps removed from the plans.
Okay.
It doesn't hold up approval this evening. We just feel it's a better design option to have the stairs off. It won't affect public safety without them there. But that's what we have decided.
Okay.
Takes a railing with it.
Yeah, you can take the railing and the lighting with it, and apologize, but that's,
It's okay. No.
if you're okay, if you guys
We're
are okay with
okay with that. Yes.
that. Okay,
As long as you're okay.
okay.
Well, I'll take some of that responsibility because, I spoke to them about it and having only seen it for the first time at the meeting and then hearing the backstory of how that came to be on the drawings and stuff and having a chance to look at it and the larger, path of pedestrian movement and pluses and minuses with access for the firefighters and with the, attractive nuisance that those stairs could cause if they weren't maintained properly and not having that be a primary path for pedestrians to access the site when it's clearly the shortest coming from the intersection. It, and the rare circumstances that the firefighters would need to get up that hill, if it were, I guess, a 3 or a 4 truck fire, it's got a turn,
Right.
then they're not gonna look around and say, where are my stairs? They're gonna haul wherever they need to haul up the hill on foot, so.
Yeah, with the railing and everything.
It
and the
just
hoses
became
and-
a much bigger, thing, and we will take that into consideration and make sure that behind the scenes here, that we are doing our best to have the proper, course of action with reviewing and recommending these things to you guys, so.
Okay.
I think it's neat and clean to just remove that piece, it doesn't affect anything else significantly as far as the site plan goes, so thank you for being flexible with throwing it on there in the first place at the last minute, and then, as we work through it, through our design process as well, so thank you.
And I think you suggested at the last meeting that it could be a potential liability for the owner. Having people thinking that's a main entrance into the property. So I think taking it off is the best of all.
Doug, on the, draft resolution, the items that we have at the end, can we go through those and see, I think some of those have been addressed and we can remove them. You wanna read it?
Okay.
We'll talk about them.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. confirm coordination of easements with National Grid, AT&T, Aqua, Web, et cetera. So we'll leave that on.
We'll leave it on as a condition.
Leave that, okay.
Yeah.
Overflow at intersection of Medical Center Drive and Averill Drive requires coordination with Town of Manlius Highway Superintendent. Connection to closed system may be desirable.
That's that catch basin.
Yeah, like a beehive grate or something right there, clean that up, yeah.
So it still needs to be done, still needs to go on the plan or
Yeah.
be finished, okay?
Shannon, did we put a beehive on that one?
No, we left it, it very easily could be a structure based on coordination. Right now,
That's what
it's
you want.
open-ended over.
And that's what Rob want.
So we'll leave it.
Structure with an overflow.
Okay.
Okay.
Under high flow over.
It's an open-ended culvert right now, yeah.
Okay, provide detail on floodway routes and materials of construction, in other words, liners for stormwater management areas 1 and 2.
We were fine with that.
Yeah.
That's what we just talked about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll take it off or?
Okay. Provide detail on 3 subsurface stormwater systems with manufacturers' data and SWIP and drawings.
So we have everything in our SWIP report, it has all the cut sheets for them. And what we'll do is when we actually go out to bid, we'll have those submittals will come in. We can send you copies of them if you want.
Yeah, I think we want them in the final SWIP.
They're in the SWIP report. We have, the cut sheets and everything are in there right now.
Did you size the unit? Did you put the unit size in the general cut sheet? I saw one of the cut sheets.
All that information's in the drawings, yeah.
It is on the details too.
Okay, yeah, we'll leave it in here. and then
Leave it in there.
So we can convert it. Okay. Provide detail on long-term operation of entire on-site stormwater system as part of the SWIP.
It's in there, it's in the plan, it's in the SWIP.
Are you good with that?
That's essentially the DEC document, correct?
Yeah.
Leave it in there.
Leave it in, okay.
And then it goes relative to that special system, so yes.
Okay,
yeah.
and provide calculations in over compliance with water quality component details.
That one's fine.
They're in there.
Okay, and then I know Aaron had some comments, were you able to update the landscaping?
Yeah, we provided the landscaping updated. We didn't, the last time we submitted, they had it turned off at the front of the building. For some reason that later didn't get turned on, so all that's been updated and we provided screening by the generator pad.
So my only residual comment on that was that, the architectural renderings don't reflect the planting plans. But I think that
Turn
it's
them
not a huge deal, honestly, if those aren't ultimately a part of our record documents that we're keeping and they're simply for conveying the vision. Might not matter.
Right, so we'll leave it on just to provide those the landscaping, updated landscaping documents. So we know what it is.
Okay, so we had them on we have landscaping
Yeah.
drawings, design and stuff.
Yeah.
But we deliberately told the architects, because they had stuff in the wrong spot. We said, turn all your
Yeah.
stuff off so you can see the building elements.
Okay.
Landscaping is our responsibility.
Okay,
So
so
that engineering.
Yeah, it's in those drawings, the drawing package.
Is that
There was a
acceptable?
landscaping drawing.
okay.
Yeah,
Just so they had different stuff than what we had proposed.
well, because there's the landscaping that's part of the stormwater management, and then there's the landscaping that's for the
Yeah.
aesthetic purposes. And I did think about it, and it can be tricky to sort of pop up all that vegetation for your architectural renderings. And since that's not really why we want to see it right now, because we all have, I think, decided how we feel about it, maybe it would just be easier for you on your architectural drawings, if they're being submitted for record as part of your package, to just put a note on it that says does not include landscaping or something for building facade.
Refer to our
reference
drawings or
indicator.
whatever.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's no sense in going through the trouble of putting that into your rendering program when we're not even concerned about it.
Right, okay.
But it should be there, so that if somebody pulls up this package and looks at the architectural renderings and doesn't see any landscaping or those step walls with the drainage in them along Medical Center Drive, and they wonder, it's just explained.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Does that seem like a
cross-reference, so
good?
it's tied together. Somebody says, where's the landscaping? They look at the architect drawing.
I don't want you to spend any unnecessary time
And
doing
they're in
that, because it's
they're
not
in the
critical.
engineering drawings. So that-
Yeah.
that's great. Okay, we're gonna take that one off of the
Okay.
conditions. The last condition would be of the full 75 plans with modified to remove the staircase.
Okay, so take them out.
Okay,
As a condition.
the condition, yeah,
Okay.
okay. So if everybody's okay with that, I can go through this resolution. Okay.
No, we're gonna read this and then we'll get a motion.
Okay, yeah, all right. So this is a resolution to approve the site plan last dated July 31st, 2024, with the following findings and conditions. This applicant was previously before this board with a project for this site with similar use to as presented herein. The prior plan was granted site plan approval with conditions on January 9th, 2023. That plan was never implemented by the applicant. The plan presented herein is scaled down from the prior site plan, makes significant modifications to the prior plan, site and building, so this board has reviewed this as a new project. Number two, this board held a public hearing of the site plan on July 8th, 2024, and all members of the public present were heard as reflected in the minutes of that meeting. Number three, this board declared itself lead agency for this project and reviewed all criterion in the Part 2 EAF and took a hard look at the project and issued a negative secret declaration for the project on July 8th, 2024. Number four, the Onondaga County Planning Board referrals of May 8th, 2024 noted the following modifications which this board accepts as part of the approval resolutions herein. The applicant is required to coordinate North Burdick Street access plans with the Onondaga County Department of Transportation. To further meet department requirements, the applicant must submit a copy of the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, the SWIP, and traffic data to the department for review. Number five, variances were previously granted by the ZBA in connection with the loading dock and trash placement, and those variances and any conditions thereto remain in full force and effect. Number six, this board has worked with the applicant over several months' time to assure the site meets all site plan criterion and the site parking configuration and accesses meet all code requirements. Number seven, fire access was reviewed by the fire department, and after significant discussion thereon, the fire department approved the project on July 19th, 2024 with a request for some modifications. The planning board has considered the comments of the fire department, and this board has accepted same with the exception of the modification to the stairs, inasmuch as the stairs are not appropriate for the overall site plan and access issues, and the absence of same will not affect public safety. Number eight, the building is now a one-floor building. It was previously multiple floors and is architecturally compatible with this area. The following conditions. Number one, the applicant has represented that this is a single tenant building with various aspects of its aesthetic practice located therein. Accordingly, this approval, and in particular, the parking counts as approved herein relates to a single tenant structure only, and any modifications thereto will require site plan review. Number two, no signs are approved as part of this plan. Any request for building signage will require the applicant to return to the planning board for approval. Number three, the following conditions of engineering must be completed by the applicant and reviewed and accepted by the planning board engineer prior to building permit being issued for the improvements. A, confirm coordination of easements with others, National Grid, AT&T, Aqua, WEP, etc. B, overflow at intersection of Medical Center Drive and Averill Drive requires coordination with the town of Manlius Highway Superintendent. Connection to closed system may be desirable. Letter C, provide detail on 3 subsurface stormwater systems with manufacturer's data and SWIP and drawings. Letter D, provide detail on long-term operation of an entire on-site stormwater system as part of the SWIP. And letter E, full set of revised plans modified to remove the staircase. With that resolution being read, dated today, August 12th, 2024, I entertain a motion for this approval for the project.
I'd like to make a motion since I was a little contentious the last time this meeting was happening, this project.
Okay, motion made by David.
I'll second that.
Second by Arnie.
Can we get discussion?
Oh, sure.
Who is going to make sure those things get done?
The conditions and all of the
All the conditions.
They'll be reviewed by legal and engineering.
Engineering before the building.
Should that be part of the?
It does include that it's
Does it
being
say-
accepted by the planning board engineer.
And legal.
Yeah, so before the site plan is filed, right? We'll have to check these to make sure they're fine in order to get the
Any
building.
issues, I guess, should that be part of the motion? That
Yep.
it's conditioned on
Yes.
engineering and legal review
Yeah.
of the conditions.
Yeah.
of this
She's
ordinance.
adding that into the resolution, so as per the resolution.
Yeah, no engineer and legal review.
Okay,
Thank you.
so a motion made by David with the resolution and the conditions by, planning board engineer and legal review. Second by Arnie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The project is approved.
Thank you, thank you for your help.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Okay, the next item on our agenda is Daniel Corwell, the 185 West Seneca Street, Manlius, North 13104. For cannabis retail, this is on for a second presentation for site plan and special use permit. Yeah. This is tax map number 106.01-07.0. And, we have someone here on behalf of the applicant.
Good evening, Greg Stroman, Dunn Stroman here. Here, we are the applicants of engineers of record, and Stephen Conlon here represents the applicant.
So, do you want to present any updates, or we do have some comments the board would like to discuss?
Yeah, I don't think we submitted a floor plan and elevation for the building, just for reference, so the board knows the height and, that sort of thing. And we made some minor changes, I think really about the only real changes, sidewalk to the road. And other than that, we could give a reasonable plan. And we're here to talk about a couple of minor things. One is the, I guess, the ADA access spots. And questions, personal questions about the building and architecture. I'm not sure, where the board stands on that, but we're ready to discuss that. I've got some pictures for the board to look at. We do have, we are over in the impervious area, but we have also drastically reduced the amount that's on the site and as part of the site. So basically, we look at this plan here, anything that is in this kind of green hatch, fake green hatch over the aerial, that's all there is today is gravel or asphalt. And I'm gonna talk about because a lot of it's kind of beat up, I think it's the asphalt, and that's all gonna disappear. So, we drastically reduce that for this area. Whether that requires a ZBA action or not, I leave that up to the town. I know we're kind of anxious to, move forward with the project.
So we can talk about that. So based on what is submitted today, and we understand, there's limitations to the law, there's especially a limitation of where the right of way is, and, but this is the residential transitional zone district. And so because of that, with the special use permit and the site plan, the ADA space, in the town of Manlius code, we got the ADA's information, but under the town of Manlius code, it does have to be 10 feet wide. So that does need to go to ZBA for a variance, and we could discuss, the board could discuss, they would need a variance of 2 feet. Given the limitations of the site, I think we could probably make a positive recommendation to ZBA.
And in fact, Mike, if you don't mind, let's talk about that a little bit. I give you my guidelines. There's actually two ways of doing it. One is the way we have it here, which is 8 feet and 8 feet. There's also another way of doing it, which is 5 and 13. Same size, different striping scenario. This is standard. We do this everywhere. And there's a lot of towns that have the same code as you do, 10 by 20 parking spaces. These are just looked at differently because it's a matter of a particular space.
Excuse me, Lisa, can you pull it up? It's- Can't see the dimensions here. I mean, I have looked at the plans closely, but you can't.
Yeah, I'll give you one example. I plan for spots to those. We did township 5. Their code is 10. 10 foot by 20 spaces, just like your code is. But all the parking spaces are this configuration for handicap, just because that's kind of handled differently typically. It's not, we could go bigger, but it's really just more of a national,
So there, I mean, we can discuss with the board and with Jamie, but the other ZBA, the other variance that you guys would need is still the lot coverage variance, even though we reduced it, it's still under, again, this site is in the residential transitional district, it's not in a commercial district, so there are things in the code, and I think, if the board wants to discuss, I think we'd be okay in making a positive recommendation to the ZBA so that you guys would get that variance, but it would have to go to the ZBA. I don't know if anyone else wants to.
I agree with everything you said.
So I think the sooner, if you make a recommendation, the sooner you can go to ZBA, the faster it will move through the process. Yeah.
I just want to kind of explain to you like kind of our theory on it. Obviously, whatever you guys feel is right for your town, your code.
I keep a copy of almost the exact same thing that I printed off the internet. My little pile of reference stuff here. I've also written the feet on it because the inches is just too hard to convert. And option number 2 is 8 foot wide and access of 8 foot. Wow, so. Well, I think that may be a place that the town code could be improved. Because there are standards put forth, but I think it's the DOJ that regulates this stuff. That is consistent in communities across the country. And I think that that's just, and I haven't looked it up in our code, to be honest, and I think that that's something that maybe we can look at making a little bit more clear and reference the specific guidelines that have been prepared and that are accepted.
This might be very old as compared to, what gets our code
Yeah.
compared to that.
But at the end of the day, what they're proposing meets one of the options that's laid out by what all designers use as reference.
Was there an issue, was there a purpose number?
No, it's the,
We have to go anyway, but.
Rick's done a great job with me in this site, obviously it's a difficult site, no doubt. The one thing top is the encroachment by the neighbor on the site plan. How do we want to handle that? That site plan approval. So we've got the stockade fence, the neighbor actually is parking on this lot.
Going to the east.
Okay.
We're not, anyway, I didn't say, don't start kicking around our neighbors, so, I just wasn't gonna stop here and say basically.
Yeah, I mean, we're not approving it, it's not up to us to approve it or not approve the encroachment,
So
so.
the site plan,
It
the
doesn't.
site plan's gonna look a little bit different, they keep the color off it.
I like the colors.
I don't, actually, I gotta be honest.
Because that area is green, I mean, that all that asphalt.
That's right.
That's what they think I'm pretty much line. I was trying to respect the neighbor, not, with that road, but.
Listen, might be okay.
I might be able to talk about something but I'm not gonna go on a limb right now, because you gotta go to CDA.
Here's
anyway.
what I would recommend, is that you guys give us the rough positive recommendations. Yeah, I was throwing it out there, something just to consider in the future.
No, I
So
hear
you're
that.
not kind of
Yeah.
sending people
I
to
think
the
it would
CDA.
cover-
I'm surprised that it hasn't come up before now, honestly, but it hasn't,
Your
so.
code's not really, it's not a code. They typically, their codes don't even handle the ADA parking stall, because like you said, it's really, ADA.gov, it's, regulations that dictate what you're gonna have to do, verification or advance of house. And that's how I was going out.
Yeah, I think it works. I think that it's a really difficult site, but it's a really important area, transition wise between the two zones. And the effort to answer all the questions, and we know the needs of not just this tenant, this tenant or owner, but, should this down the line become something else? It really helps to, clean up this whole strip of area where we have this like mishmash of things. The only other comments I have, I still wonder if it's enough parking with the employees and the customers, but I don't know what you're expecting. You have more of the market research than I do on that. And then,
We did add one extra space.
Yeah.
So
I saw in your meeting the requirements, so,
For
we don't,
retail.
we'll just have to see,
Make sure we also have expectations.
Yeah.
Sometimes parking governs your business, if you're not gonna park, you don't want your business, see everything.
So they drive by and come back. So with I think that your landscaping could be a little bit more robust and creative, perhaps.
Did that myself.
I know.
What would you like, if you want us to beef it up a little bit,
Just something a little bit more interesting, perhaps, or
I could throw some
more
grass.
residential-ish,
Yeah.
or, in the historic, I don't even think it's that old of a building, but it looks old.
I think it's old.
I think it's-
The wall is
I think it's fine. I wasn't sure because
the bomb shell.
I don't know what the historic use.
Yeah.
Solid stone.
I think it used to be a school.
Was it? Okay. So then the question, the last thing is the sidewalk, we've been talking about it all night, and having the one come out and just dead end on the road, I don't know if there was a misunderstanding about what we were looking for with the sidewalk, but we want something that runs parallel with Seneca Turnpike to connect various sidewalks.
We want to recommend sidewalks in general, but for this particular property, it's difficult because.
It's a long way to the next sidewalk.
Well, it's in the right of way.
Yeah.
It's an issue, like.
So how does that end up happening?
And this does have very wide shoulder.
Yes, it would have to be a full project.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it is, we feel that it is a little more dangerous going right to the road like that. So I
And
think,
that was my misunderstanding.
yeah,
So what I want to do is I will cut it off
Yeah.
from here over, because this still is a side entrance.
yeah, yes, we didn't have the right of way issues, then, and maybe we can fix that in the future with the town,
I
but
appreciate that. That could be a real
Yeah.
tricky issue with the OT.
It looks like this is a prime spot for a DOT streetscape project.
Put it on the list.
Right? Send them a recording.
Well, we've
Before we
done some
take
of
a look at
these,
your-
just sort of from a planning standpoint, we've done some of these. We don't want to get us where it's actually a combination project with New York State DEC. And it's a climate smart project, and we're putting in all the sidewalks along Westfield Plaza, Charles Ave, Genesee Street, where there aren't. And that's funded like 80% by New York State.
Yeah.
Just to keep my, that's a kind of a project
They're
that
looking
you
at
get
grants
much
and
shoot
stuff,
for here, especially with all the plazas. You
I know
got
the
to
town board has been looking into a lot of that
a
stuff,
lot of
so
those kind of
it's
grants,
bring
business.
the village into the loop, because
Yeah.
mostly,
right,
you know, that.
because this is right outside, yeah.
Okay.
Before, oh, go ahead. Oh, no, I was just gonna say, before we get in, look at what you brought for architectural stuff, let's talk about sign.
not part of the application.
Okay, so, yeah, so if you wanna come back for
Yeah, so
approvals,
the sign.
however, if you're
the
going to
sign-
ZBA, there might be some time to work on it, if you'd
And that's something
rather
I'll let you know.
not. Okay.
They're working with a sign first and trying to find something that kind of works for everybody. And I'm not sure where we are with that.
Okay.
Obviously, if the sign is not gonna be, that's there in some way, shape or form, it'll have to come off.
Yes, and I wanted to just clarify so that you guys don't work on the wrong thing. Yes, the frame for what's there does not conform to the signage, so it wouldn't get approved, so it does need to be removed anyway. The sign code is, in our town code is 155-25. That's what you guys wanna look at for the sign requirements. When you're coming back, if you wanna make it part of this approval or secondary approval. And so it would be, and this is just a rough estimate that I did real quick based on the elevation you gave, so you can figure it out more technically. But what it is, because of the right of way issue, there can't be a freestanding sign out in the right of way. So you guys are gonna have to do something to fix to the building most likely. But if you do, it has to be 5% or less than the total facade, front facade, which I'm kind of getting as 23 square feet approximately. The one that's there is 32. So just so you guys have like some idea of what would be acceptable.
Can we request a variance to go to the ZBA, because the fact that we can't have an A-frame sign in the right of way is the reason why it's so important. This has been existing tenants, insurance agency, a dog grooming facility, and previous business for.
Yeah, you could go to ZBA, I'm not sure this board would give a positive recommendation for the sign.
We think it's important just for business needs, so.
Yeah, so you can go to the ZBA with it, when you're going anyway. But I think this board has to discuss the ZBA variances and kind of see where we would give positive recommendations. So, so let's talk about that. What do we think about the ADA space?
Should we do the architectural look first and then talk about?
Oh, sure, yeah, we can.
So just for the sake of this, right in front of them, these are some elevation photos of the existing elevation. I haven't done anything because, to be frank with you, I'm not sure where, what the board has in mind. Share it, because I was just thinking I may not quite get enough.
Right, the reason why, when we asked for the architectural, the reason why, again, being in the residential transitional zone. The idea is that it's transitioning from and with residential, so just to give it more of a residential appearance, is the idea behind our request.
Yeah, that's, to me, the two things that are important with this is that it's consistent with residential character as our code, as our code discusses. Even the existing sign frame needs to come off of any approval that we do in this board. And then you come back later for the sign approval, we'll look at it. But it shouldn't be on the building now.
Okay.
That's just one person's opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a designer or an architect. So I don't know if we really wanna throw out ideas to you guys, be more like have an architect do a rendering, like, I don't know if like shutters or something, to make the building more attractive residential appearance, like the landscaping you're doing and increasing the green space of it is gonna really help as well. So it would, to give it a look nice to invite people to come to the building as well and fit in with the zone and the character of the area.
And that's up to the applicant and
character.
Yeah.
And can I just ask too, because, I mean, obviously it's in a different zone, across the street, you have signs that are much bigger. So I understand that it's in the RT zone, across the street, that whole commercial.
So what,
I'm just wondering, like, I guess.
Exactly, that's across the street.
and it's a
That's not here.
commercial.
Yes, I know, I was just
Yeah.
as far as like fitting in the character and stuff too, you know, we do have a couple neighbors and stuff too. And also what we did with that sign was, it was a bright white sign, where actually some of the neighbors even commented that when we put it in a backdrop, more of a black thing, it did like, where it was shining all over the place. So we tried to improve that to fit the character and stuff too. We're just throwing it out there that we did make strides with the sign purposefully reduce that light because you do have like a lot of light.
For the state, signs can't be backlit anyways.
So let's talk, like, because I think we're getting off the topic, which is the board is saying that architecturally, this facade, no. Okay, I am also not an architect. I'm not going to comment on that other than that I've heard the comments, which is this doesn't fit in with the character of the neighborhood. It doesn't fit the RT zone. And the sign is possibly part of it. It's too big for the RT. And like the whole package sort of needs to do something. But it's up to the applicant hearing that comment to say, okay, here's plan A, plan B, plan C.
The sign is that's existing sign is 8x4, which is 32 square feet, so it's 23 square feet, so even if it was 8x3. So it's not that much smaller, but it's the.
I think, well, let's focus more on the building.
Yeah.
Just for a time, and
Yeah, so
some
that's-
guidance on what, you know, would make you
Right.
feel like it's more residential. So I mean, we could do, I could do something with this door here and.
The trim, my suggestions would be to throw the sign out that's here. It just happened to fit whatever sign, whoever else was here before had up. You can do something so much more creative and attractive rather than trying to squeeze your design into an old, beat up frame. It's a beautiful building. And you can do something really attractive, I think, with that. A small, like maybe you have a logo, maybe you have a thing, like, this is, because you're not gonna get any other kinds of signs, this is your chance to have a good one. And I didn't find anything particular in the comp plan for this type of example, other than half a little bit of the residential and half a little bit of the commercial. There was a particular page I saw that had some of these, but we don't have and this is kind of where I was going with the sidewalk stuff, is we don't have a corridor section for this, where it would say, here's your buildings, here's your space, your sidewalk, and then there's, you know, areas that take up the difference, and then your roads and your trees and your lights and all of your signage, all your stuff. We don't have that for here. And so we got to kind of blend it in on either side. And what are the kinds of things that if this were a home that you were trying to attract a buyer to, would you want to? Maybe you want to freshen up the paint around the fenestration, the roof. I won't get the name architectural terms right for those, the wood, but you know, there's
Trying to
something.
get them at the fascia.
Yeah, that stuff probably is a unique
I mean,
characteristic.
we're not gonna, nobody's gonna want to paint it in stone, obviously, but.
No,
you know,
I'm talking about
so
the woodwork.
trim color or something.
And the door, yeah, I mean, it sounds like, you know, and I don't know what's appropriate period wise for the building, but, and with the landscaping too, I think you can do. It's such a sad looking situation right now that I think you can do so much good here. Architecturally, I think it could be really cool. And I would like, Valerie did the math on it. I don't think meeting code would be that size-wise, it would be that big of a difference. And then I would encourage you to go out and be fresh and creative and not be hung up on what's there.
I think, I think it was surprising how much of it, but yeah, it's.
Yes, I mean, I know we're kind of focused on the sign and we're moving around. Was that sign approved by New York State?
Yes.
It was.
Yes, I got the inspection last week.
Okay.
We were allowed to go as of last week with this thing.
The one that was on it
Everything.
originally?
Yes.
Okay.
When we put
we did do the mock-up, we just thought we were gonna make it a real sign. We didn't suggest, but I had the walkthrough with Office of Cannabis Management. Was it Thursday, Friday? Tuesday. So.
Was it the same sign that was on?
Same exact sign, we gave them the new design for the sign.
This one has we did have to remove the logo.
We took away
We had to remove the logo for the state, and it's just a plain black background.
Okay,
Just a bit of background, they just read on it.
I read through New York State law, they have very strict rules on the signs. And when I saw the one that was on there before, I did not think that was compliant with.
We took out the permit.
Okay.
So it's just a black backdrop that just says the word just read.
I was just curious, I mean, that was more of a curiosity thing I liked, because anyway.
Yeah.
It was a little bit more flexible with the promotion phase program versus the full discussion.
Okay.
There is a little bit of flexibility.
We have a full.
I was just curious, I wasn't trying to.
Yeah, so I would suggest coming up with something that applies to our code.
So.
Yeah.
Because our code may be more restrictive, and you have to go with the more restrictive. So.
I'm more worried about the
The-
architectural.
Yeah, why don't we start with that?
So maybe some different color on the trim.
What's the deadline for ZBA?
Something that looks period appropriate, but
Yeah.
fresh.
Yeah, I gotta figure that out. There's some historical, plain historical colors.
For the September.
We do like historical buildings.
And then, okay, so let's talk about timing. So you've got the 28th deadline for the September ZBA, which is gonna be the third,
Which is the night, will be the 19th.
19th. And then our meeting will be the
That is the meeting. Oh, our planning board would be the 23rd.
23rd. So it'll be whatever you get, you could do, but then maybe you can get approval, but it's not gonna be approved. So we need to see you next time about whatever you do here, or we're gonna be hanging up on the architectural. Not architectural.
No, yeah, we just said that, we just said that.
I thought-
Yeah.
Can we, can we go through that? No, I was just asking.
Oh, the
I didn't hear
timelines?
what she said, I was just holding my.
Timelines?
Yeah.
So the ZBA deadline for submission for their next meeting for the two variances is August 28th for their meeting on September 19th. They meet once a month. And then our next meeting, which would be past our deadline, but we would, it's if you submit your architectural and everything by our deadline, and then you get the ZBA recommendation approval, you could be on our meeting for September 23rd.
So do we need to make a motion to give a positive? Is that?
I think that I think there's time. I don't think that recommendation needs to be made tonight because we have another meeting for the ZBA meeting.
Okay.
And maybe that will give time for the architectural or the design.
The deadline for the application for ZBA
You
is.
can still put it in. I mean, you can put it in. You just put in what you think. Well, we know the two you want to sign, right? So.
Oh, so you're suggesting they get every, started to us for our next meeting?
Yeah, but they can go ahead and do the application. They know what they want, right? We can't stop them from doing it.
Yeah.
And then, once their architectural comes in, they will be like, great sign, you know, looks good, everything fits. And we'll positively recommend.
Okay.
As it sits right now, I don't think it's gonna get a positive recommendation, so I think you're better off coming in with whatever your options are.
So, man, are we thinking maybe like different doors on there, something more very appropriate?
I mean, my ultimate suggestion would probably to have an architect take a look at it and do a couple of renderings. We're not architects.
Yeah.
This
So,
was a school, right?
yeah, to make it,
To look at some old schools, see what actually how we can make it look more like a steeple in there. Put a balance.
No. Stop saying this stuff. Seek counsel from a design professional.
yeah.
So our meeting, deadline for our next meeting.
This coming Wednesday? Yeah.
Yeah. I can tell, right? Yeah, I can tell you right now. That's
Yeah.
not-
Because we meet twice a month.
Well,
So, I mean, there would be another meeting before the ZBA meeting, which would be our next, which would be September.
And then this is the deadline.
No, they're gonna submit anyway.
They're gonna submit. To ZBA.
Our next deadline is what? After this Wednesday.
Well, you can make positive recommendations of parking, space, and impervious.
So we've got a meeting, on the 26th, is that our next meeting?
Yeah.
So even if you need to do the CBA, right? If you have something, even though it may or may not be entertained at our meeting of the 26th, whatever you've got, you know, send it in and then we can look at it and maybe you can come on the meeting of the 26th and stuff. Right, so you'll be on the ZBA anyway on the 16th and 19th. So one way or the other, we'll get a recommendation. I'm trying to think of those time frames.
So you probably got a couple of things going on. Right? Talk about ADA parking, side looks the door's not ADA accessible.
The side door? It's the side door, it's the side door is the main entrance.
Sure, the front door is not,
The front door, they're not using.
the front door is not for public.
But you're showing your sidewalk going to the front door.
I said there's an existing sidewalk there.
We can take that.
Yeah.
Because you probably want to make sure that you got an ADA accessible door, right? Yeah, so the one facing east. One facing east is ADA. And the sidewalks will be, we haven't done the concrete. Then you gotta get the parking stops in. If you notice the photo, parking stops there.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff. I looked at this as a next step submission, not a final package. Because the signs and the details and all that stuff.
Like, I know you guys want to move along, so we're trying to give you the information to make it move more efficiently, so that's why we're saying get the ZBA done, because otherwise it's a whole other month. I don't want you guys to have to go to ZBA in October or November. They meet once a month, so that's why we're offering those two, the parking and the lot coverage has to go to ZBA. I don't think, does anyone feel differently that does not have to go to ZBA?
No, it doesn't have to go.
So it has to go.
So are we making a positive recommendation to ZBA tonight for those two? It's not gonna, nothing's gonna change on that.
That's a question. That's a question for you.
I mean, you can do that. The question is, you know, what do you want to do about the sign? Because they're also gonna apply for the sign, and I suppose we can take it up at the next meeting, if they can come or not come. It would be good if we had some architectural to, depend on, otherwise, you know, it'll be probably a negative recommendation.
I wouldn't, yeah, we can't make a recommendation for the sign.
I'm not,
So
I'm not
if
asking for that.
Okay, so if you're taking the sign off the
That's
table,
completely obvious.
and you're not going to ZBA for the sign, then we should
Or are
probably.
you gonna go to ZBA for the sign?
If we
I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, but the board will want to recommend
Recommend.
negative.
You don't have to, you don't have to recommend. I mean,
Yeah, they
and-
do.
and we'll decide that,
They do.
talk about maybe next meeting, but I think that's gonna be a whole separate action at this point. We're really just looking at.
Maybe what they're trying to say is you might wanna look at the dates and how you can run that parallel or have them then merge it a time to get your approvals as soon as possible and meet all the requirements. See what I mean? And we'll be looking for a lot of these other details, which I didn't bring up as comments tonight because I didn't think that's really why you were here. I'm saying in response to the last submission, which was here, see what you think about this, right? But, you know, we've got,
So Erin, I think we can say this, you guys figure out what you wanna go to the ZBA for, we will have another meeting before before the ZBA, we'll have a couple meetings before the ZBA meeting, so once we know what you're applying, what you're going to the ZBA for, we can make our recommendations positive or negative for that.
So will we be on officially at the next meeting so you could make a recommendation at the next meeting?
Is that the last possible, meeting to make the recommendation?
The two things to go to the ZBA, the lot variance, lot coverage variance, and the ADA parking spot variance. So those are the two things.
Yes,
And they also,
if they go for the sign.
They took the sign off.
no, they didn't.
I'm not sure.
Do you mind doing that, Nick? We won't do that at the ZBA.
The sign is off the
The
table.
sign is completely off the table.
So we can make the recommendation.
So we got two things. Can we do a positive on those two things tonight?
I think we wanna make sure, for sure, that there is a
Well, the
sign,
reason I'm
which
saying
we
that-
have to make a determination on the sign.
There's
we're
a
not
sign
ready.
on it right now. Who's to say they're not just gonna keep going with the sign that they have because no one's made them take it down?
We took the sign off.
They did take
We took it down.
The frame.
The frame is not.
it. Got approved on Tuesday.
Tom would.
The sign is on the drawings.
Give us a building permit.
The sign is on the current drawing.
Yeah, we'll put you on for the next meeting for the recommendations to the CBA.
There's all the rest of the site plan.
Yeah, and then as Derek and the other items.
I don't want you to come in and think it's good and I hold up the paper.
Oh,
The next
I'm not
meeting-
thinking that.
The next meeting will be for the ZBA recommendations, because you won't be able to get all the other things in by
But at
Wednesday.
least, but
So
by
we can go
that,
from there.
I won't be able to submit architectural stuff by Wednesday.
Right, exactly, so
By
that will
that
be,
meeting, as soon as we get it done.
that will be on the next.
Maybe we have a discussion about, if we're on the right track, architectural wise,
Right.
site plan,
Just
modification.
show the
wise.
architecturals tonight.
And that,
Because
that
they don't
meeting.
have any, I got this with,
Great. That meeting.
I got that meeting slide.
On the next meeting.
Yes. The next plan.
Oh, like even the floor plan you don't wanna see? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next item on our agenda is solid radar testing facility at 7031 Chef's Corners Road, East Syracuse, 13057. This is on the agenda for an initial presentation for a site plan amendment. This is tax map number 038.03-18.1. And looks like we have someone here on behalf of the applicant. Doug, did you want to mention anything about the flooding concerns we've had in the area, or do you want to have them speak first?
Madam Chair, before we go to Burr, I'm Vice President of SOP and so I'd like to recuse myself.
Yes, okay, thank you, David. Yeah, you want to. So you can speak instead, or whatever you want.
No, I mean, you do have to leave the
You have to
table.
leave the table, yeah.
You don't have to leave the table.
Make up my mind.
But since it's the last item, it's up to you.
Yeah, I can say something now.
Okay, go ahead.
As we go through the project, it's a great project, as we go through the project, I want to work with stormwater.
Okay.
I think the groundwater is quite high out there. I'm not sure the existing stormwater has ever really operated properly out there, so.
Oh.
This is a great opportunity.
Yeah.
To address that situation.
Okay, great. Good evening, I'm Drew Ingram, I'm a landscape architect with Beardsley Architects and Engineers, and we're working with Saab on this project. Their existing radar test facility site on Chef's Corner Road. Saab, as you may know, is a large business, and in Syracuse, their focus is on developing, designing, developing, and testing radar and sensor systems, sensing systems that are deployed throughout the United States and the world, military and civilian. So for the various branches of military, homeland security, as well as civilian airports. radar system. So, this is their site on Sheph's Corner Road, the 79-acre site on Collimer Road is located here. Sheph's Corner Road is located here. And the facility is located off Sheph's Corner Road. The site is 79 acres, bounded by residential properties fronting Collimer Road to the north, Sheph's Corner Road to the east, and wooded areas to the south and this project, the existing radar test facility was designed and constructed in 2009, approved by the town of Manlius, through the regular process. And the site generally consists of about 3.5 acres of development, 18,000 square foot single story building for the engineering and testing of radar systems. Access drive off of Sheph's Corner Road, parking lot for the employees, as well as a existing 50 by 100 foot concrete radar test pit. In addition, there's a stormwater pond that was developed as part of the project. There's a gravel road that extends to the west, and on the southwest portion of the site is a receiving tower. It's about 120 foot tall radar receiving tower. So what they do is they're basically transmitting radar from this test pad to the receiving tower that goes, back and forth. The remainder of the site is primarily, mentioned, very flat. There are wooded areas and there are redwoods farm fields that essentially have, been developed into wetlands and wet marshy areas. When the site was developed in 2009, it was raised in grade approximately 45 feet, as there was basically extremely flat and the soil conditions were poor. So, developed the site in 2009, the site was essentially raised. As part of the project, 2009, there were wetlands existing. Those were disturbed by the construction of this facility. So they constructed a wetland to replicate or to wetlands that were disturbed. So this area, large area here, is 3.5 acres, was constructed to mitigate the loss of wetlands. So when Saab first conceived of this project, it was a much larger project. Their intention was to build another building, additional parking, and between 3 and 5 additional concrete radar test pads. But as we were going through the early stages of planning for the project, we could see the wetlands, New York State DEC and Army Corps wetlands that were prevalent around the site. So we had a wetland firm, BME, that does wetland delineations, and they came out and did a delineation for us, and lo and behold, they found that there's relatively 50 acres of wetland. So that's to get those plans. Those plans are on hold for now because Saab has a critical need to get these 2 radar units up and running, tested, and deployed somewhere in the world. So they're scaling back their project to this very immediate short-term need to locate 2 radar systems in an area of the site that does not contain wetland. We don't have the time to go through a wetland permitting process with the EDC and with the Army Corps. So you can see this is a blow up of the building site, building, the parking area. This is the existing radar test pad. This is the stormwater pond. You can see this line that kind of cuts through the site. This is the New York State DEC 100-foot wetland buffer.
Excuse me, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm trying to match up what you're showing with what we have, and it's not matching up. Is this what we
This is-
submitted, or?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a rendering, just a
Because I have
simplified.
C 102, but it's, and C 101 wasn't what was shown either, so I'm trying to. Are these new drawings?
This
or
is just a
drawings
rendering.
that we-
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
not included in that package. Those are our design drawings, this is just for illustration.
Okay, so I didn't have.
You're looking for what is close to that drawing?
Yeah, this drawing, this rendering was not submitted, just for illustration.
You can probably look at it. Your number.
Okay.
Right, you just pull that off another drawing, and that should be there.
Okay, so we don't have, that.
Yeah, it's just got, that just has a different number on it. What
That's
you're-
just the
what is
visual.
closest is C 103. Same drawing.
Just to verify.
I didn't see that.
C 103.
No.
Well, the
C
rate,
103 is existing conditions and removal plan.
So go
but
to
it's
the
this
next,
shape, it's this scale.
so if you go to the next sheet,
Oh, wait,
the
here
layout.
you go.
plan.
Like it's this scale, 104, 5,
I got it.
all the rest of them follow, but it's the same
I got it.
scale as that.
I got C
That's for the confusion. Yeah.
Okay,
But as I was saying, they're very limited in terms of where they can locate these. So, the radar units themselves, are mounted to essentially shipping or storage containers that contain metal storage containers that are filled with computer and software, electronics for the radar systems. And the radar is mounted to the top of the unit. So this is a 40-foot by 8-foot storage unit with the radar mounted to the top on the west end. And this is a 20-foot by 8-foot storage unit with the radar mounted to the southern. The reason why this pad looks the way it does is two reasons. One is again to fit on the site and avoid the wetland buffer line as well as the stormwater pond. Have clear sight to the radar receiving tower, and the units themselves, they need to be a certain distance away from each other, at least 75 feet. And they're positioned in such a way to minimize interference so that the radar is not, one unit's not interfering with the other. So it's essentially a concrete pad. There will also be for each unit, electric and mechanical structure. There'll be a chiller because the storage units need to be at a certain temperature. So there'll be a mechanical chiller unit placed on the pad, as well as panel boards and transformers and other electric infrastructure to support the.
Are those modules modular? Meaning this is a test piece, or it can be moved and taken away,
Yes.
another one can be
Yes.
brought in, or?
Yes, so these units, these storage units essentially that you see on the back of the truck, get brought to the site and they get forklifted onto the pad. And they are, I don't know how frequently, but they are, they're movable, they're not fixed to the concrete. So as these radar units are tested and completed and deployed, other units will, come and take the place.
what's the, either the engineering reason or, whatever reason for proposing that location for the pad as opposed to anywhere else on the site?
So this is the only area that we could work within, because of the wetland buffer. So, obviously, this is currently used for parking as well as circulation to get radar units on and off this pad. And then if we went up in this area, we would lose line of sight to the radar receiving tower. So
essentially, this is the only area of the site that remains for us to use.
The receiving tower is the tower shown in the
On
lower
the
left-hand
southwest corner,
corner
yes.
of this existing site,
Yes,
correct?
relatively, it's like way down.
Right.
I'm not real smart, so I ask stupid questions.
Sure.
If these are temporarily put here, tested, and then moved, and other units come in, why do you even need this area? You could put them anywhere, couldn't you?
No, because, again, any form of disturbance to the site, we want to avoid. They do have to be, you just can't put them on grass or other things. It has to be on a firm, stable surface. So concrete is what they use.
Well, when I say anywhere, I don't mean on Chips Corners Road. You can put these things, they have to be right here.
At this facility, yes.
We have to talk to that big radar tower that's 2,000 feet back. Right. So the radar system is a two-way communication from the radar system itself to the tower and back again. Then inside of that facility is all the controlling electronics that connect the radar to the tower. There's like almost think of a triad, three-way communication between the building, the tower, and the radar system.
Okay.
So they're all modulating.
Like I said.
Yeah.
Just like I said.
This is John Spinoza, he's the facility manager.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh, how many employees are there
How many employees?
at a time?
What's that?
How many employees are at the facility at a time?
This facility here, it flexes about, probably about 75.
75?
Yeah.
Where do they park?
75 people, we have three shift operation.
Ah.
So at any one time, the facility is probably 25.
Will it decrease with these additional?
Maybe slightly.
Do you have parking problems?
We're going to, yeah. As we have a big long story here, as Drew said, our production is ramping up. Yeah, quickly, because the requirements this is a stopgap measure to meet the Navy production requirements. We got a commitment to the Navy starting in October to deliver 6 to 8 of these units per month. And so with that, with this new test pad and that current one, we need this pad to get the throughput of 6 to 8 units per month.
So I guess, yeah, I have a question. Obviously, we want to stay safe, but what do you see with the future of this site as far as parking and further expansion because of the limitations with the wetlands? And because like Doug was saying, that area is just getting more and more wet. And we can or cannot say if this site and the wetland change and the impervious surface has had an effect. And if you're saying you don't have enough parking and you've got to do this, what's the future projection really for this site? The actual practicality of it.
They are still committed to the site. There are other areas of the site that are upland, that are non-wetland, 20 to 25 acres.
Up by the residents?
It wouldn't be by the residents, but access maybe off Collins Road for an extension. Of this, coming off. We could, as plans are developed, there's no reason why we could not apply for a wetland permit. It's just in terms of the time crunch that it takes. You know that we don't have a year or so to get through that process. So John said this is really kind of a stopgap measure what they need to do in the immediate sense. But down the road, they continue to wish to develop a building and additional facilities and additional radar test pads. yeah, we would have to engage in that process with the Army Corps.
Fair to say, because as the board who's looked at this in a preliminary way, there's a concern about whether the original plan is failing or has failed to mitigate the problem with the water and the, stormwater in the area, A, and B, does this addition of a 4,400 square foot pad exacerbate it? Is that a plain
So-
English?
I look at it as, I see why this site is a valuable piece to their programming and why, given the deadlines and the commitments, it makes sense to do this. I don't have a problem with any of that. If it has been brought to our attention that there may be problems with the existing pond design, dating back, maybe be preceding your contracting with them, then it definitely warrants revisiting if there's been failures or inadequacies over time. That's fairly easy to do a study on, but
And if there is a failure, you can't add to it.
it's not,
If it's
I guess
not a
failure is not the right
Could I
word.
ask how
Inadequacy.
the black use the term failure? I'm not aware of any
Yeah.
information.
No, I
that knows this, so why are we
I will,
characterizing this failure?
There's been an exacerbation of wet.
How do we, I don't know this
Yeah.
from anything I've received, so what information do others have that I do not? That engages in this characterization?
None. I have history on this site. So going back to 2009, this has been a fabulous site. This was vetted, and I don't know, Rich, were you on the board at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was vetted with a lot of insight and input. It was screened. If you go by this site on a daily basis, Lisa and I just said, you won't even know that this is here.
No.
I mean, these gentlemen can tell you. I just heard there's 75 people there. I've never seen more than 5 cars. When I go by, I look at the pond is always wet.
Yeah.
So my concern, I don't have any information on any failures. My concern to Drew was he has developed a SWIP, and I would like to work with him to make sure that the SWIP works for this site. So that's all that's been said.
The current SWIP
The
that's in
current and the
place.
proposed, he has a
Okay.
SWIP here.
We have
Yes.
a SWIP. Well, you said it better than I.
Yes.
Yes, than I meant
no,
to
if
say.
it was my fault, I used that word, that was my
But I
fault.
can tell you, right, in the 15 years that this has been in play, I have not received one complaint on this site. Neither has Lisa. These gentlemen will tell you the same. Right?
But this, yeah,
But
I guess-
when you drive by, I mean,
You don't know it's there.
yeah, but
It's
when you
fun.
drive by and you look at the pond, it probably shouldn't be wet all the time.
yeah. And I
Well,
think, John,
yes,
to
yes
answer
and
your.
no, I do believe, I think it was designed as a wet pond, but the regulations in 2009 might not be the same as they are
No.
now.
So we can work with that.
Yeah, and Don, to answer your question, for me to answer your question too, I had heard that from Doug before, but also when we had the public hearing for the tracer tech
Tracer tech across the
driving
street.
range, the neighbors on this side of Shep's Corner had mentioned water issues and had
So we
also
wanna be
mentioned
circumspect
since,
that we
they said
review-
since site came,
Yes.
they've had issues, so
So
that's,
we wanna be,
we had heard that from the public.
So we wanna be
make sure we're
circumspect.
being diligent with
that we look at this.
making sure it's gonna work.
It should be
I
easy enough to figure
don't
out.
necessarily disagree. I'm trying to figure out how a 4,400 concrete pad on a grassed area materially engages that. I know they have the SWIP. I can't help but think we have a company that's saying they have a production need. Saab is a well-established, highly technical company, in an economy that struggle to have companies like this with us. I'm not really hearing a message that says, how do we help accommodate this company? Particularly when we start using the word failure.
No, I think we've said that was a mistake. But I think this is in front of us for a site plan amendment, so it's an opportunity to have Doug take a look and work with him to make sure that it's going to mitigate anything that may be happening currently or that could happen in the future. Is that?
I'm gonna tell you my 2 cents with that. Yes, Doug, I was on the planning board back in 2009 or something like that. There's nothing in my mind more important than the defense of our country. And I think what Doug is saying is that he can work with the developer to come up with a solution to whatever the problem may be. And I'd like to see this thing fast-tracked as quickly as we can to make sure that they get what they need, so they can make sure the Navy gets what they need to protect our country. It's as simple as that. But that's just my opinion. One vote.
I don't have a problem with it. I think that it can be worked out. It's a wet area.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure with the wetland.
Yeah, there's no
disturbance
doubt
and
that,
everything.
you know, if you were to go outside the fence
So I'm putting my
line
trust in Doug.
into the
our
wetland
planning board
areas,
engineer.
it's wet, the land is flat, there's farm fields, and when you walk out there, you can see remnants of farm fields that are over the water. So it is most definitely wet. I mean, in terms of what's inside the fence line, that's either building pavements or the wall, I don't know of any issues with water.
No, there's a lot of done annual inspections every year too.
Yes, yes, that's correct, yep. Christie does it. Yep.
Okay, so we're going to wait for engineering review. For the current engineer.
Well, I would just like to say, I thought it was a great package, and I appreciate the detail that you put into it all, the drawings and the coordinated documents and stuff. It was really easy to follow. I come into it with no questions.
Jamie, we need a public hearing for site plan.
We do, we need a public hearing. So basically, it's gonna be mainly in engineering hands. We can put it out for public hearing at the next meeting. Not next.
Different looks from one.
I mean, that's up to the
I
board.
can
We
make it
usually
happen,
go
I
out.
can make it happen for the next meeting if you wanna do it that way.
Yeah, it's up to the board. We
I don't have a problem, but
do
it
not
really
typically
comes down
do
to, I
that,
think,
but that's
the
up to the board.
How was it yours?
I don't see why, I'm fine with it on the next one.
Well, the neighbors will probably show up. They're the ones who
Yeah.
had issues.
I mean, there's
That
this,
was
I just wanna
better.
make sure, yeah, they get enough notice, because our precedent has been
You might
Two
wanna
meetings
watch
out.
the previous
On the same
meetings
side.
we have had for tracer tech to see, like, to prepare for the questions.
Okay.
Sounds like the board is good with the public hearing next meeting.
Okay.
Even though if it's not done with engineering, we'll just.
Yeah.
Just, you know, delay.
We'll delay
It's just
seeker.
not going on.
One will delay seeker.
So you're going to, while this is being done on one track to get the needs met, is your client considering looking at the rest of the build out, things that you might wanna do with regards to the timeline that it takes to go through our floor and all that? I think it's a good use of the area, especially if you're doing some restorative and recreation of some of these. Sometimes they're.
Motion, put it on.
Do we need motions of
Facility for public hearing.
Okay, I need motion for
I'll make it.
hearing on, on August 26th, Jake, yeah, Lisa? Okay. Motion made by Aaron, second by Rich. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Public hearing on August 26th. And subject to engineering review. Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, I think we're all set unless you have any questions, Bryce. Okay. I do not have any other business tonight, so I will take a motion to adjourn.
Before I make my motion, I just want to say one thing. Les McDermott was a great guy.
He was a great guy.
He was a great guy. I enjoyed working with on the planning board for probably at least 5-6 years back in the early 2000s. and building this. I make a motion to adjourn.
So motion made by Rich, second by Arnie, all in favor?
Aye.